Okay, so welcome pilots once again this evening to this session, and hello to people who will watch this on YouTube. We are on to the second episode now of Masterclass, and I needn't introduce Sir Roland Dorozhani because everybody knows him by now. He held the first session on launches. We want, like different perspectives for our club pilots about these, basic skills of flying. So we covered a lot, in the episode on launches. And again, we are taking up another very critical phase of our flying, that is landings. And as was mentioned, in Roland's previous session, that when we see the statistics of paragliding accidents, 25% are attributed to launches and 43% are attributed to landings. And you can see, like, in a total of almost 70% accidents happen on takeoffs or landings. So that is why, the reason of, going a little deeper into these topics to master these skills. Initially, we start doing it mechanically, like, you come to a certain height and you apply your brakes, but slowly we start to appreciate, our airspeed, and we start to apply brakes, feeling what our airspeed is. We start to feel the energy of the glider, and we start to, doing it by the feel of the wing. So that progression we will discuss a bit. And also, one of the wow moments, one of the fantastic moments of our flying is when we come in for a landing and we land like super softly and smoothly at a glide angle that we are very aware of, and like kisser landings, and it's a wow feeling for all pilots. And we want to do that again and again and again. So nothing more important in your toolbox than mastering your landings, and it becomes more and more important as we move towards XC flying, where we may have to land, maybe on a slope, maybe on a very tight spot. Our skills need to be really good. So it's a big topic again, and we now give it to Mr. Roland to take us through basics of landings. We will particularly talk about different types of approaches, and we'll also talk about wind gradient that plays a huge role and has been cause of accident sometimes. So yes, thank you very much for joining us, and over to Mr. Roland, who's enjoying himself under a beach umbrella. He's by the beach side, flying is on, tourists are coming, he's got some SIV students, so life is like golden there. And I'm happy that somebody's enjoying. So, okay, over to Roland.
So, greetings to everyone. Thank
Hello.
you for giving me this opportunity to talk again with you and sharing together like a couple of things regarding landing. As Mr. Avi mentioned before, on the landing is the process when the mostly accidents are happening. It's 43%. It's a lot. And then some of them are incidents, small one, and some of them are very serious one. And then let's stay a little bit together and give a little bit more attention to this process. I mean, we take off, and we were talking about the takeoff, what to should take care. And then we are in the air, we fly, okay. But in a certain moment, we have to land. And then as much we spend the time in the air, and then as little bit more difficult the landing is coming, because our skills to land after spending time in the air start reducing, because our feet are on our feet, the blood is going away and so on, and we became more lazy. Do you realize that or not? Yes, actually, I think everybody which spend time in the air see that once he's coming for landing, and when he's touching the ground, maybe he's not feeling his legs because of spending a lot of time in the air. Anyway, we are not going to stay so much in the basic things because almost everybody, all of us know those. But let's focus on the points which I found important to know. Okay, so I want to share with you image, and then we are going to talk together about this. Okay. So let me find out, where is it? It's this one. So share. Sorry, I'm not really good on. I don't want WhatsApp. I lost my. I don't know where is it. Just a moment. Sorry.
And you know, the search, do you have this image?
I'll find out immediately. Don't worry. Yes, we are here.
Okay.
Okay, I got it. Share. So I think everyone has this view in front of him.
Yes.
This is the landing process, and then looks like it's too much lines and too many things, but it's very easy. We have many techniques to land. So as we know, you can say that we can use the U-shaped approach landing, S-shaped approach, 8 approach, and sometimes something between. And then our procedure is changing all time regarding the strength of the wind. Let's stay a little bit more to U approach landing. There is a question for you. I consider that procedure the most important one, and then even the most easy one. And then this procedure has more advantages than the other one. The question is why? Why the U-shaped approach it's better than the other approach?
You're always near the runway, and in case of any problem, you can just cut across and come in and land. And you always have the runway in sight most of the approach time.
Okay, it's good. And any other idea?
You have the downwind leg and the base leg to control your leg to change to do spot landing.
You can change any time the downwind leg and the base leg. You can move it regarding the conditions, and then so you can adjust the altitude. Very nice. Give me more. Let's think together. Check that losing height zone is upwind, no? What it means? If this losing altitude zone it's upwind and the wind is picking up, anyway you are in the
circuit pattern. So at the most you'll drift downwind and you'll still be in the circuit area.
Yes, good. So you never miss the landing. And imagine if you are somewhere here and you don't do you see the cursor of my, if you are
Yes.
in the no wind, Yeah, if
Yes.
you are in that zone and the wind is, you didn't realize that the wind is a little bit strong and you cannot reach the landing. And imagine if here are objects like trees, buildings, and whatever. What else?
You can do your approach and landing in a smaller confined area, I would think.
This is very important. With your approach, you can land in very, very small place. Looks like not logical, but it is logical. You really can do precise in very small place, mostly when this area is surrounded by objects, tree, buildings, and whatever. What else?
If you don't know the landing area, you can see very clearly if there are, power lines or some, so you have more access.
You have more access, you can control the area very better. You have more view. So you do pattern and then you see what is going on. And something else, imagine a landing area which is somehow busy. A lot of people coming and landing and blah, blah, blah. And imagine yourself doing this long procedure in a center line. Let's say, let's call center line the line we go to land, which a part of center line is final leg. You are like moving like this and someone is coming to land, you are keeping that area busy. So you are going to be trouble for the others coming to land because you are losing a lot of time doing that. And in your approach, you just come in final, pace, and land. You don't keep the center line busy for a long time. It makes sense for you?
Absolutely.
Yep, correct. Right, true.
And then, by using the U approach, really you can change the base regarding the wind strength very easy. So you can make it closer or far from the target. And then you can change that in any moment. And even you can, for any reason, if you, let's say you are coming for the landing in the downwind leg or in the base and you get a bubble, like a thermic bubble going up and your altitude, you are not losing altitude. And in any moment you can switch to 8 maneuvers or S. So it's very comfortable. And imagine you are coming with 8 maneuvers, you come here and already you get a bubble. So you will miss the landing, you go away. So it's giving more possibilities. That's why I suggest you to practice more and more the U-shaped approach landing, and you'll see it will gonna be the most easy one. Much easier than doing S and doing 8 figures, but it's matter of practicing. And then you see the losing height zone, they're putting a circle. In the case of our draw, we are turning left. Why? And not turning right? This is a question.
When you roll out, you're on the downwind heading. Otherwise, in the other turn, you have to make another turn to join the downwind heading.
Good. This is the right answer. And then, okay, in this picture we have, the losing height is on that in the side that we do left approach, because we go and then we turn left, and land. So it's a U-shaped approach from the left, we say. It might be you approach from the right. How we decide to do the U approach from the left or from the right? Because we can switch to the right as well. Depending on what? There is a question.
I would think obstacles on your downwind leg. That also is a deciding factor.
Good. This is good reason. So we are coming, we check the landing area, and we decide the losing height can be on for the left approach or can be on the right approach, depending on the objects surrounding the landing area. So look, it's really comfortable to do this kind of procedure for landing. And check here, from here to here on the downwind length, anytime we can switch. If it's high, make the downwind leg little bit longer and even moving the base further. Or if we are short, we make the downwind leg shorter and move the base closer. So it gives you a lot of possibilities. But more and more, as I see, the pilots don't like this shape of this kind of procedure, just because they don't know and they didn't get the right explanation, and they think this is difficult. Actually, this is even easier. It's a matter of understanding what all the pattern is meaning and just practicing, and you'll see it will be the most easy one. So what I'm asking from you is, like, if you don't practice that kind of procedure on the landing, just think about this picture. You can find it easy in APPI logbook, and then find the reason why this is the best and practice it, and you'll see that it will be very easy. Even here is explaining where the base has to be in case of strong wind, middle wind, and no wind. So if there is no wind, the downwind leg can be much longer, and the base may be here, and switch for long final if there are not objects, and so on. And then middle wind strength, you can shorten a little bit, and strong wind, and so on. So it's very clear. There is any question about this procedure? No question, it's clear, everything. Avi, do you hear me very well?
Yes, yes, all good.
All good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, this is one of procedure. There are other kind of procedure for landing, but what is the objective on the landing? Doesn't matter what kind of procedure we are going to follow. What is the objective of our landing?
Transitioning from your flight mode to the ground mode.
Yes. So anyway, we are in the air and we have to touch the ground, to be on the ground again. But the objective is to touch the ground very smooth, safety, and feeling happy, not landing like having crash landing. So this is our objective, and now what it means all this objective in terms of flying. It means that straight final leg, little bit longer, more than 4 seconds, sorry. Do not like straight more than 4 seconds. Do you understand what it means? Not trying to turn in the very last moment. If the glider is in a rolling movement, the synchronity of the glider is increasing, so you are touching the ground very hard. So in the moment we touch, our glider has to be above our head, not in front, not in the back, not on the right, not on the left. It's, let's say, opposite of the landing. It's totally opposite of the landing. And then before we touch, it's very understandable. Our legs should be down. We have to be much more further, somewhere in base leg, out of the harness, with the gear down, like the aircrafts, ready to touch, and not waiting for the very last moment to get out of the harness when we have to focus on with other things. Okay, it's understandable that. So in the
Yes.
moment we touch, our sync ratio has to be 0. What it means? Actually, the glider has a normal sync ratio, which is 1, 1.1, 1.2. But in the moment of touching, the sync ratio of the glider has to be 0. And we call that flare. So we come with the sync ratio, and then in certain moment, we have like contact point, like we stretch the commands, and by coming closer, braking, like gradually. And then the sync ratio, we have to go like somehow parallel to the ground and touching the ground with 0 sync ratio. Doesn't matter how fast we are. Imagine, I told you the landing is opposite of takeoff. So we have a speed. Having speed, it's not scary. Having speed, it's saving you. You have energy, you can use it. So in the final, if it's possible, I mean, if you did the right procedure, and always it's possible, your hands has to be up, and you have to speed. You should have really speed. And then in the right moment, your legs are like 1.5 meters above the ground. It's contact point. And 1 meter smoothly brake, and the ground is coming, and you brake more and more, and it will come the first state. Even if we are fast for many reasons, let's say if the wind is from the back, because sometimes we have to land with back wind, or the wind is crosswind, and then once we go to touch the ground, we still have a vertical speed, but not a horizontal speed, but not vertical speed. So once we touch the ground, doesn't matter how fast we are, do not be afraid. Our weight is in the glider. So you touch, and then the very first step, there is just 5 kilograms on your legs. You can hold it, doesn't matter you are fast. And next step will be much further. You are running like in moon because you don't have your weight. Then in the second step will be like, let's say 15 kilograms. Doesn't matter again that you are with 30 kilometers per hour. Your feet will hold just 15 kilograms. Do not be afraid. So let the glider, and after the next step, it will be like 30 kilograms and so on. It's the same like we take off. We start running, we have all our weight in our legs. In any steps, we have less, and we'll be airborne. And landing, it's totally opposite. So I see people mostly when they didn't get used, coming for landing, they are in stress and they start braking from far because they thought they are going to crash because of the speed. And by doing that, they really crash because the glider is going from the trim speed very fast in minimum sync ratio and going in opposite side. So
Hello,
the
Roland.
sync is really increasing.
Hello, Roland. If you do not want the diagram, can we see you instead of the diagram? Can you stop sharing?
Okay, and now you have me. Did you understand that process? Doesn't matter how fast you are. Doesn't matter how fast you are. You don't have your weight. So do not be afraid of being fast on the landing. And this thing, it take more meaning. There is much more meaning if you are forced. Sometimes we are forced to land with the back wind. Imagine we are very fast, and then with the back wind, if you do mistake to brake earlier, you are really going to crash. But if you leave the glider full speed, I mean not with the speed system, but with trim speed, full, hands up, and you are waiting And in very little bit, 1 second earlier than the contact moment, you just dynamically start braking, you'll see that you'll touch the ground very, very soft. You have to practice first that with almost no wind, and after, once you get the feeling, you make practice with a very light backwind, and you'll see that you land very, very soft. And then even running because you don't have the weight. And then if you practice that technique, landing with almost no wind and after crosswind and after with little bit wind, a day is going to save you. It's clear this point. There isn't any question.
Just
Roland, how
to
aggressively? Sorry,
Sorry?
how aggressively should you? So when you're just about to land, how aggressive should you be with your brakes then in a situation like this?
You mean when there is no wind or
No wind, or you're
basically-
coming in very fast. So you
Okay.
wait till the last moment, and then are you aggressive or are you light on
Okay.
the brakes?
Let's say in the normal landing, there is a contact point when your feet are 1.5 meters, but you are not braking. You are waiting a little bit more, and when the ground is 1 meter, you start braking and smoothly by doing flare. In case that the wind is on the back or there is no wind, you should, in the moment of contact, when your feet are 1 meters, really 1 meters, and you are out of the harness, the braking has to be much more dynamic, like really dynamic, whoop, until in the end. And you'll see, like, doesn't matter the wind is back, you'll flare, and then in the moment you touch the ground, there will be no speed, no vertical speed, no horizontal speed. It's clear? You got the answer?
Yes.
So it has to be little bit 1 second earlier, but much more dynamic. Little bit earlier than usual, but not very high, not starting from 3 meters or 2 meters. I'm talking little bit earlier when your feet are 1 meter. And just remember, with the wind on the back, the glider has better efficiency. So it have better sync ratio. So you need just the last moment, really dynamic brake, and you land very soft. Okay?
So just to clarify, what
Yeah.
Roland is sharing, two basic points. One is to remember that we generally start to slow down, and we feel safer that way. But that's not a good idea. Actually, we are doing something that is opposite of being safe.
Actually, it's a wrong idea.
So we want to come with speed, and we need to remember that it is the sync rate that we are more concerned with than the speed. Okay, so we want the sync rate to be 0, so that the speed we can manage by running as well, like we manage on the launch. So being aware, number one, that by mistake don't start applying brakes early and lose the flare and the purchase from the brakes. Keep the purchase because you need it, and only at the right moment you apply brakes, like we took an example of zero wind or backwind. We need to do a dynamic flare so that we reduce the sync rate to minimum. Speed we can handle by running forward. So these are the 2 points I just wanted to clarify, so it's reached home, and this can save a lot of situations.
Yeah, thank you, Avi. So it's clear. So do not be afraid of the speed of the landing. Mostly when there is wind on the front, for everyone it's easy because you start braking, you may slow down, the wind is doing the job, and then you may land softly. And then you may stop, you may start braking much earlier. But if you do that mistake, if there is no wind or if there is backwind, and you'll see yourself crashing on the ground, for sure. So just train yourself to land with the speed. And then by time, this technique is gonna save you in a certain moment. Then breaking a lot and, you know, like Avi was mentioning. Anyway, there is a question. You are mostly for the people which are practicing cross country. And when you do cross country, you sometimes you are not landing in the landing zone, official landing zone. You may land, I don't know where. I mean, you never know. And then there is no a wind suck to tell you the wind direction, and there is maybe no smoke, no other evidences which can show us the wind direction. A question: in this condition, how will find the wind direction? There is an idea. So you are coming about the landing. On the landing, there is no wind suck. There is no waves on the water. There is no smoke showing us the direction. We cannot see. There is no evidence. How can we find the wind direction in these cases?
Yeah, can I answer?
Captain, you are muted.
Oh, okay. Okay, so basically doing a 360 and identifying where the drift is.
Good. Actually, this is the only thing you can do. So in a safe altitude, you perform a 360, I mean constant one, not spiral, 360. And then I mean, before you start the 360, you put the object under your feet and you perform a 360 and you see your new position after you finish your 360. Your position against to that object and you understand the drift. Everybody understand that point, or we should keep going, should explaining more. It's a very good maneuver how to find out how the wind direction. Any question? No. And then let's stay also in a technical part as well. We see many people when they're coming for landing, they have wraps on the hands so they can brake. I mean, I don't know, I don't prefer that. If the glider is, I mean, the length of the commands are just from the factory, mostly you don't need to do wraps. So if you do a ride with the flare and in the last moment your hands are pulled down, then you don't need the wraps. And then we see later on why. So I don't prefer to see people using wraps. I mean, you know, wrap on the hands when we land.
Yes.
You understand that why?
Yes, Roland.
Okay. Question. Do anyone what it mean landing in wind gradient?
So basically, when you get nearer to the ground, due to the surface friction of the earth, the speed of the wind keeps reducing as you get nearer to the ground. And the speed of the wind is slightly... Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Okay, great. So basically, towards the surface of the earth, due to surface friction, the speed of the wind reduces as you get nearer to the earth. Now, so suppose if you're making an approach in a headwind, your net ground speed will be lower at a higher altitude. As you keep getting nearer to the ground, because of the reducing amount of headwind, your ground speed will be higher than at altitude. So your touchdown speed will be slightly higher than your ground speed at altitude. So this changing speed is called the wind gradient.
Yes, you are very right. And the wind gradient, it's a normal wind gradient. You explained it very well, but sometimes for many reasons, not just because of friction against the ground, but because of meteor reason or because of objects in front of you or whatever, the wind it's not going gradually reducing the speed, but is jumping. Let's say in 20 meters or 30 meters above the ground, you have like 20 kilometers per hour wind, front wind, and in a very short moment in a layer, you find yourself in 0. This is landing in a really strong wind gradient. Do you know what happened with you if you meet this effect? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Everybody knows what happened with the glider in this kind of conditions. So you are 30, 40 meters above the ground, 20 kilometers per hour front wind. And then very fast, for meteorism, for it happened, you'll find yourself in a layer with a zero wind in front.
So basically now the glider is it very close to the stall speed, so it will either pitch down to pick up speed, or you basically don't have lift now. So she'll probably drop down and pick up speed, or I'm assuming it's around that.
Yes, you are really right. And then let's go more in detail in this for this topic. Are you agree to go a little bit more to understand
Please,
this?
sir. Of course, why not? Definitely.
Yeah, who's speaking, please? Who's giving the answer?
Prashant Bararia.
Yeah, so Prashant, what you do is let somebody else also take a try for giving the answer. If nobody is giving, then you may give because somebody else might also be thinking. All right? Thank you.
Got it?
Yeah.
But it was an open question. That's the reason I answered. It's fine.
No,
I understand your
it's
point.
okay. It's okay. If somebody else has another opinion, he may share with us. Before I share a topic, there is another idea.
I think we can go ahead.
Okay. So let me share something. Like always, where is it? I got it. And share. Do you see that? So here's the wind gradient in the condition I was talking about. So there is a paraglide flying with a trim airspeed, passing from a layer with 6 meters per second front wind to another layer with 0 meters per second wind. And then this is altitude, the wind speed in meters per second, and this is a graphic. So somewhere here, just the speed of the wind, like jumping from 6 meters per second to 0. You understand the case, okay? And what is happening? This is our profile, the chord, and then there is a wind direction, 20 kilometers per hour speed on front. And then alpha 1 is the angle of attack, which may be, I don't know, 2-3 degrees, depend on the company. I mean, in a trim speed, the angle of attack is because of the trimming they did in a company, and then has a value which has to be 2-3, something like this. And what happened? Once the paraglider is meeting the other layer, when the wind is not anymore 25 kilometers per hour, but is 0, as the guy was explaining before, what will happen, we just realized that the glider will not have any more speed forward. It looks like just stop flying. And the angle of attack is increasing radically from 2 to 3, maybe 20, or I don't know, depending how big this jump is, how big the wind gradient is. And then in this case, 25 kilometers per hour to 0, it's big one, it's huge. So the angle of attack would be something like this, very close, even bigger than the higher angle of attack the glider can fly. So the glider will find this itself in a really big angle of attack, and then almost very slow. I mean, the horizontal speed will be very, very low, sometimes under the minimum speed. So a glider, if it has a minimum speed, has a speed less than minimum speed, the glider can hold our weight. It's just stalling, cannot create lift to hold our weight. So we just, our sink ratio is just radically increasing, and you feel like falling down. If you have really altitude, what will happen? The glider is designed to fly, so it, in a certain moment, it will lose. Like you have, doesn't matter, you don't touch the brakes, you will feel like stalling in the beginning, and after the glider will pitch forward and will gain altitude and will keep flying in a new conditions. But if you are too close to the ground, doesn't matter you didn't touch the ground, the commands, on the moment of radical sink ratio, the glider is really going down, you may have a crash landing. Doesn't matter that what you are doing. And in this case, we have to be prepared about. So let's check all this, what I was talking from another perspective. Do you know what this graphic is, somebody? Sorry, I lost it. Anyone know that graphic, what it is?
That's a speed polar diagram.
Good. So I hope everybody understand that. So what happened in our case? So this is a normal speed polar with no wind of a glider we are flying. So we have a sink ratio, minimum sink ratio, trim speed, and then the stall point and maximum speed and whatever, you know, all this. And then if we have front wind, like 25 kilometers per hour, all this diagram is moving to the left. Check the red diagram. It's the one, but moving to the, on the back. Do you know that? Or it's the same, that the 0 point on the graphic, you move it forward, or all the graphic, move it backward. So our glider will find itself in that conditions with the red. Do you follow me? So 6 meters per second front wind, and then let's analyze both diagrams together. So with the black is the diagrams, we have a with the no wind, and with the red it's 6 meters per second front wind. So in the beginning we are with 6 meters per second front wind. We are flying with front wind, and here is the diagram. And then we go from this layer, another layer, no wind. So all this diagram has to switch from the red one to the black one immediately, which is not possible because our system has inertia. Cannot jump from a speed like this to a speed one just in a short moment. It needs time, 2-3 seconds, I don't know, depend how big the gradient is. And check the D. So if we have a trim speed, in the new condition, the minimum speed of the glider is higher than the trim speed when we fly with the front wind. So there is a gap. This gap, it makes the glider stalling. The glider doesn't have the speed, has a really big angle, low speed, it will stall. And after that, has to pitch forward, gain speed, and start flying. It's clear? And it's clear like a situation?
Yes.
And why we are talking so much about this topic. So, trim speed, and we meet if the gradient is too big, we meet that effect. Imagine if we come on the landing in the final with brakes. So we don't have the trim speed, we have less speed. Instead of 37 to 30. And then we don't have a wind gradient with 25 kilometers per hour, but we have less, 20. And then our speed is reduced in 30. We meet 20 kilometers per hour wind gradient. So again, we go out, we crash. And now imagine if we are with 37 kilometers per hour, no brake, and the wind gradient is 20, our glider will find itself with a speed higher than minimum speed. It will fly. We will not crash. Using brake, meeting wind gradient, you raise the chances of stalling the glider. Having speed, you decrease these chances. You give more chance to yourself to land safe. So landing with the speed, for this reason, it's much, much safer. Do you understand that?
Yes, Roland.
Okay. Something else. Choosing a glider when the minimum speed of the glider defined by factory, it's far away for trim speed of the glider, it makes this glider very safe on this kind of conditions. Actually, what happened in reality, the pilots which fly with low EN certification glider, A, B, they are risking much more regarding the wind gradient than the performance glider. Because the performance glider, the trim speed of the glider is much further, much far from the minimum speed of the glider. You understand? So in case that you have to choose a B glider to fly, you have to take in consideration many points, like what kind of material and how safe it is, and how many points in test report are for B and whatever. But you should take in consideration also this fact. You check the minimum speed of that glider. Has to be as low as possible. And check the trim speed has to be as high as possible. This kind of glider, it's saving you if you meet the wind gradient. Do you understand? It's clear?
Yes, Roland.
And then another point, if a glider is very old, it's very easy to meet that effect. Or it's not trimmed very well. And then if you meet this effect, there is nothing to do. It cannot save you. You just crash, you know? So how to take care to not be in this case? How we can prevent this situation? Has someone any idea? How do we prevent this kind of situation? I mean, we fly, we are in the air, we realize that we have a strong wind, 20 kilometers per hour or 25 front wind, and we check on the ground the flag, and there is no wind at all. So it means that somewhere you will meet that effect. So you are aware that, okay, I have wind in front, my glider almost is not going forward, and I'm checking on the ground, no wind. So somewhere you will meet that. So you have to prepare. So what you should do to avoid as much as possible this situation?
Hold speed. Don't try to reduce your speed.
Yes, as fast as possible. Good. Something else.
Speed bar.
Speed bar, but yes, as much as possible, keeping the speed bar, but in the moment you will be sure that you will release the speed bar in the right moment. So I don't know if it will gonna help. If you have trim on the glider, some gliders, even the solo glider has, and tandem gliders for sure, release the trims, full speed, and speed bar maybe need or it help you or it's not helping because of another reason. Something else.
Swing through.
What?
Swing through landing. You give the speed by applying brakes and releasing.
No. In this case, don't try, because you don't know where you meet that situation. And if you start braking, and you may brake in the layer that you meet that. So if you know that, try to brake as less as possible.
So I would think that probably you will hold speed and make a slightly longish approach and a slightly
Yes.
high approach, which will give you
Yes.
sufficient margin in case you have the shear in that touchdown phase.
Very good. You can do that. Even if it's possible and the landing is huge, like there is space, I will advise you to not land with the front wind, but crosswind. It makes sense for you? So instead of doing the final to the wind, and you know that you'll be not in the wind in the end because the wind on the ground is almost zero, then you choose a final that you have a crosswind by taking care to not be dragged. It makes sense? So landing with a crosswind, it will not gonna affect at all the wind gradient. It makes sense or not?
No, Ronald, please explain this again, because if there is no wind you're saying, and then you're saying landing in crosswind, so it's not
I mean,
like.
yes, there is no wind, but on the altitude there is front wind. On the ground there is no wind. So instead of landing in the direction when you have wind in the altitude, if there is possible, choose the final in crosswind.
Are you saying that if we do crosswind, then we'll maintain better speed, and that is why it's better?
Yes, of course, because
Okay.
the wind is not affecting. But
Okay.
it's dragging you. Somehow you should keep the direction.
Okay.
Do you understand the situation or?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, it makes sense. Anyway, just we have to remember, if we see that we are going to meet the wind gradient on the landing, remember, as fast as possible. If it's possible, change the final leg with the crosswind. If you have trimmers, release the trimmers. Anyway, in this case, you get out of the harness much earlier and prepare yourself if you are not lucky and then you did everything, but anyway, the wind gradient will gonna happen. Prepare for crash landing. And then it's totally different if you are already out of the harness, prepared, and you know you're gonna touch the ground very hard, and you touch the ground and roll, like the same procedure you do when you do land with the rescue. You know, you have the rescue. The moment you touch the ground, you roll. So prepare,
PLF.
yeah, prepare for crash landing.
Ronald, I have a question here. Sorry.
Yes.
After you're done.
Yes, of course.
So my understanding is this crosswind will really help you only with reducing your gradient, wind gradient component, because
Yes.
you're doing a crosswind. But your final touchdown will eventually be in zero wind. So whether you land cross or you land into the wind doesn't make a difference for your touchdown, because you said the wind is zero at touchdown.
In touchdown, it's not making effect, but
Correct.
it's making effect
In the approach.
on meeting the layer when the wind gradient,
Yes,
like
yes.
meeting the jump.
I understand.
If you meet the jump with the front wind, the glider will stall, and if you are close to the ground, you will crash. If you switch from the final leg from the to the crosswind, you will not gonna meet that at all. You understand? Because you don't have the wind gradient. It's not affecting to you.
Just correct me, then I'll just try to explain the same thing you just told us. If you realize that there's going to be a steep gradient during a
Yes.
final approach and landing,
Yes.
then during the approach phase, you slightly grab into basically you go cross. So
Yes.
that now the effect of the gradient has reduced because you are going crosswind.
No, even it's not just reducing. You make it zero, because
All right,
you are
okay.
crosswind. It's
Okay.
not affecting to you.
All right.
But
And
but remember, you are going to land with a lot of speed, like we talked earlier. So
yeah,
it
obviously,
makes,
because you don't have headwind, any wind, so your ground speed will be higher.
yes.
Clear.
It
Okay,
makes
thanks.
sense. It makes sense for you. This, I
Yeah,
know.
I've got it.
This is a topic that it make put you in doubt, but it's physics. It's saying that. And then if you check in YouTube, I didn't have so much time to find evidences and to find video when you see pilots not touching brakes at all, just coming in final straight, and you see the glider just stall without doing nothing. He just met wind gradient. It is
Accepting
meeting
took
the
a
wind
little
gradient.
time because our brains are hardwired differently to always make the approach into the wind. So this whole concept of making a crosswind approach is it takes time to grasp the fundamentals of that.
Yes, you are very right. But we are sharing that situation together. So before we land, we check out. We check the wind up in the place we are. We check the wind on the ground. And then if we face that this thing's gonna happen, we can prevent. No?
Clear.
Okay,
Thanks.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
What if, for example, that it's too late and you did not realize the wind gradient, and now you hit the gradient at the landing, and so the best thing is to the glider will start diving. So it's best to leave the brakes and let it gain speed, and then try
Actually,
to reduce the sink rate.
Actually, the glider will not dive forward. When it will meet that, it will go forward. It will stall in the very first moment.
Backward.
It will go like backward. Even if you don't touch the brakes, looks like you stall the glider. You'll meet the same effect. You'll feel no pressure at all, and the glider will like just go down. If you have enough altitude, in a certain moment, the glider will dive forward with pitch forward, not really pitching so much, and it will gain altitude. It will gain a speed. Just, and then that effect you are meeting all the time, mostly when you fly thermals. All time you go from the thermal to no thermal, and you cross the wall of thermal. And it's exactly what happened. In certain moment, you don't feel the glider above you. It's not pitching. It's above you, but you don't feel pressure. You are just sinking very fast. And in certain moment, the glider is pitching forward and you gain speed. And then in a certain moment, in this moment, what happened, if you check the altitude, you have lost 20 meters. For sure, but you are not aware. Just like you are sinking a lot, pitching, and start flying in thermal condition. If you check the altitude, you lost 20 meters, but you are not aware. And if this will happen on the ground during the landing, and you don't have 20 meters, you'll touch the ground. Do you understand? The wind gradient, this effect we meet all the time in flight, but we don't be aware of. I mean, the guys flying thermal, for sure they meet many times. Sometimes the glider is stalling in the thermals without touching the brakes. You just met that situation. That's why.
Okay.
It makes sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we know that we can meet that in the wind on the landing, and it's not good. So we were talking also for the tailwind landing, what to do, speed. Also nil wind, again speed. Speed, it's saving you. You just have to practice for good flaring, and that's it. That now you see often people doing like before they go to flare, they are stopping the gliders, like pitching, and after nice and long flare. And looks like very nice to see. Everybody saw that. Actually, if you really know what you are doing, and if you are pushed to do that for not crossing the landing, and you are mastering that method,
Technique.
that technique, you can do it. But this technique, it might put you in the risk. If you miss the moment of pendulum, and you may touch the ground with a lot of speed before you go under the glider, and it's very dangerous. Do you understand what I mean? So you can use the technique, but once you are sure that you are master of it, okay? So I think Sachin was saying that. So you can see people doing that, but it means that they master it. And sometimes even the one which are playing a lot with this, and you see a certain moment like very hard landing, which is not really comfortable. So, any question until here? Can we talk a little bit about top landing?
Yes, we have another 15 minutes. We can talk about top landings.
Okay.
Although we had planned 1 hour, but I think we continue.
Okay. Do somebody has an idea how we do top landing and what we have to take care?
You basically avoid the leeward area where the rotors are there.
Mm-hmm. So this is the losing zone, or what do you mean with that?
You don't go too back and make your approach. You try to come in from the side. That's what I'm thinking. And come in from the side and adjust your approach for the top landing.
Yes. Actually, what we see when we do top landing, we are on the back, and then we are in, let's say, in final, straight on to the wind and start braking, flapping, and whatever, pushing the glider. And then if we are lucky, we land. If we are not lucky, we let the glider go, and then we come again for another round. And we are really not lucky. We flap so much or we mush so much the glider, then we stall, and then we crash. So top landing is not easy. Actually, it's not easy because of technique we are following to do it. Actually, top landing, to land on the top, we should follow the same procedure we do for normal landing. It's U approach, but you should take in consideration the lift. So the losing zone altitude will be in front of the takeoff, on the side, and you lose altitude, and you come in downwind leg, and come in the base, and the target with the base is just there. Like target is to the base. You understand? So final base is on the landing, and just in last moment you turn to the wind and you land, and you just calculate the lift. Do you understand? Instead of coming from the back, straight on, flapping, and whatever. I mean, it might work, but if the wind is a little bit strong, it might not work. You will stall the glider or you will just go flying again. Do you understand the point? So it's exactly like U-shape approach, but the base, it's very, very close to the target. Do you have the view?
Yes, Captain, you wanted to share something? You are muted. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. So, Roland, I had a question about normal final approach landing.
Yes.
Out of the about 150 flights I must have done, I was about more than 90 flights I have not landed properly. So the problem is that I find that the speed is too high and start braking earlier, which I should not do. I understand from you. and other
Yes.
instructors as well. The problem is that if I come fast just before landing, the time at which we start pulling the brakes, that 1 meter, is very difficult to judge. That is my problem normally.
Yes, you are right, and then this is common to people. You have to change something very simple. Do not look on the ground.
Okay.
Look forward in a horizon,
Okay.
and then you just realize that it's moment to touch. If you look on the ground, what happened? You are fixed on the point which is always going, because you are going forward, and you are in a hurry to stop because the point is going, you know?
Yes.
So instead of focusing on point, you never know where we will touch. Don't focus on the point. You just look forward in the horizon.
Okay.
And but instinctively, because even when we look straight, our we look in that way that we see also the ground. You look straight, but you look also. So you'll find out this 1 meter. Look forward, and you understand. Even you do mistake and not braking at all,
Yeah.
even if in nil wind, 0 wind, I guarantee you, even if you don't touch the brake, if your legs are down and you are prepared to run, you'll land softly.
Okay.
Try it, and you'll see.
Thank you.
Just let it go, hands up, and run. You'll see, nothing will happen. But we are afraid of the speed, and then we try to stop and whatever. Clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any question?
Questions, anyone?
About top landing. Did you understand the way of the? It's the same procedure. It's new approach. Like on the side, in front of the takeoff, on the side, losing altitude, following the lift, like understanding the lift, coming against to the ridge, base parallel to the ridge, and just in last moment you are like 1 meter and switch and land.
I have a question. What
me.
if there's too much lift at the top landing? How do you control that?
Okay, if it's too much lift, and then you come approach from the base and you see you are too far, so you get out and go again, and now you adjust your altitude, lose altitude little bit more because there is more lift. So coming downwind leg little bit lower, the base will be a little bit lower, and then the final, it will be very short and landing. If still it's too high, you go again fly, and then you adjust altitude little bit lower, and so on. And then one moment you'll get it, and if you practice and practice, you just feel it that flying is feeling. In the beginning, you do long view approach, like really long pattern, and after shorter and shorter and shorter.
Okay.
And then when we land with a crosswind, you know how to, when we start braking, and then brake both, but more action on the side from the wind is coming. So let's say I'm landing crosswind, but the wind is from the right. So in the final, I'm start braking and more to the right, brake more to the right, brake and more to the right, and in a certain moment you face shortly to the wind. You understand? It's exactly what you do when you top land. So you come in final, you start braking, you start the contact point in the base, but braking more to outside of takeoff, to the wind, and full brake. And you'll find yourself in the front of the wind, and the wind will stall. You'll be on the ground, like with very low altitude, nothing will happen. Do you understand the situation?
Yes, thanks.
In this case, just remember, flapping, it's good. if you do precise landing, I mean, for you compete, you have a glider which never stall. They do glider for precise landing, never stall, and you flap, and it's very difficult to stall. But doing this technique, when you come to land, mostly top landing, and if you are a little bit on the back and flapping, in the beginning it works. But once you come close to the ground, you may be in the in the situation of wind gradient because of rotor. You do the same flap, but the glider just stalled. So you can use it, but you should understand the limit of your glider, and you should understand the wind gradient. You understand? I'm not against of flapping the glider. You are high, you can flap strong. You come closer, you flap little bit less and less and less, because somewhere you need the ground effect in this case. You understand? The same for mushing. It's working. If you have a glider for precise landing and so on, yeah, you can. It's easy to stall it. But if you have a performance glider doing that, I don't think it's working. You have high altitude, little bit wind, it's working. But you should know the limits. You come close to the ground, less flapping, less mushing. You come close to the ground, even less, and so on. This is my advice. I cannot say it's not working. I'm against with, but we should take care and we should know the limits. Mostly when it's strong wind. In strong wind, the glider is holding more. But once you meet the ground effect and it just let you just stop the glider and crash. It's clear this point? There is a meaning?
Yes.
Any question? Captain,
Okay.
Captain, any question? I see you like, good. And Prashant, our pilot, the real one?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
It's clear.
Thank you.
Are you
I'm
agree
clear.
with us? Because you may know better than us some things.
No, sir. Very clear. Thank you very much. It's a big learning experience for me too.
I mean, guys, even in the landing, if we go in details, there are so much to talk and so much technique and so much calculation and so on. But in 1 hour, just is something. This was what I was thinking to share together.
Okay, so thank you very much, Roland. I think fantastic session and some very solid points there. I think some very solid points, especially on the wind gradient. I think people should read up, check out on the polar curve. It will become more clear, and maybe watch videos. And this effect really happens. And to be having hands up with maximum speed is the best way to avoid it. And we generally don't experience it with the condition that we have in Kamshet and in Beer not so much, but it is a phenomena which does take place, and you'll see a lot of accidents on YouTube channel because of the wind gradient. And it's good to if you have a little sense that there's a wind gradient, it's better to come with speed. A huge learning on that point. And plus, not to be afraid of the speed, and you use those brakes for reducing the sink rate. Some very solid points. And okay, so Roland, thank you very much. You can go for a swim now. And
no, I'm going up to fly.
Okay, so thank you for your time and valuable inputs about landings.
Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone for giving this opportunity, and I hope this.
Thanks, Ronald.